Hey guys, it's Nick, and I'm going to give you a heads up here. This is a longer video than what I usually make, but this is me ranking from 31 to 1, from least favorite to favorite NHL teams. So I hope you enjoy, because this one's a long one, so grab your popcorn and enjoy. Okay, let's get into this part of the video where I start ranking them. As you can tell, I did a jersey change. I threw on an NHL All-Star jersey from 2017. So, let's get into the ranking, why not? At number 31, you'll see it's the arch rival St. Louis Blues. It's pretty understandable. Hawks versus Blues, we hate each other. Big history between the two teams where the rivalry is large, but probably a few years ago, they could have been at probably number 29 when there were still 30 teams, because like when Detroit was in our division and conference, they would have been at number 30. But number 31 is the St. Louis Blues because the rivalry between the Hawks and Blues is large. I hate them. It's known that I hate them. When they were in the Cup final, I wore Original Six stuff because it had my favorite team, the Hawks, and then it had every other team from the Original Six, including the Bruins. I wore that because they were the Cup finalists, the Boston Bruins were. So I wanted the Bruins to win the Stanley Cup because I can't stand St. Louis and their fan base. It's just that. I just can't go for that. So, at number 31, I have St. Louis, and let's get into number 30. Okay, at number 30 is a team you probably would have thought could have been at number 31, how I am towards their fan base. I don't like them. I don't like their goalie. It's the Trashville Predators. Yeah, I call them Trashville because I'm not a fan of their fan base. I'm not a fan of their team. But Nashville, I'm just not a big fan of their team at all. There's one player in particular I despise, and it is their goalie, Pekka Rinne, who's very cocky when it comes to being a netminder in the NHL. So whenever we score on him, I just laugh. I can't stand this team. I can't stand their goalie, and I honestly am not a fan of their fans. So at Nashville, they could be tied honestly with St. Louis at number 31. That's how much I hate those two teams. It sometimes fluctuates on the hatred level of these two teams ever since Detroit left the division. So Nashville being at number 30, I wanted them at number 31, but St. Louis is at number 31 because I just can't stand them a little bit more. But Nashville at number 30, down goes Trashville. Okay, at number 29, it's the first team that is not in the Central Division. They're actually in the Pacific Division. And they are at number 29, it's the expansion team, the Vegas Golden Knights. Frankly, I am not a fan of Vegas. I'm not a fan of their team, and honestly, I'm just don't care about watching their games at all. And also, we barely can beat them. We only won one game in the the Blackhawks have only won one game against the Vegas Golden Knights. So maybe that's the reason why I have them at number 29. I just don't really like Vegas. When they lost the cup, I kind of was actually glad they did in 2018 because they were an expansion team. That was their expansion year. They should not win a cup, be in the cup final, in my opinion, and they were. And I was happy for the Washington Capitals to win a cup finally because they got over the hump against Pittsburgh. So at number 29, I have Vegas just because, frankly, we can't beat them really. It's hard to. They play a trap game, in my opinion. And I'm just not a fan of their style of play. Especially, I don't like Ryan Reeves, so maybe that's why I hate the Vegas Golden Knights, because he was on the Blues. I hated him there, and then he goes to Pittsburgh, did not like him there, and then he got traded to Vegas, and I really don't like him there. So that's probably why. So at number 29 is the Vegas Golden Knights. At number 28, we're staying in the Pacific Division. It's the Vancouver Canucks. I just think it's mainly because of that old playoff rivalry we have between the Hawks and Canucks back in the early 2010s. I really did not care for the Canucks afterwards, and I think they just stuck low at the bottom of the totem pole. There's some players I like currently on their team, but honestly, I don't care about the Canucks, and them being at number 28, that's pretty much the reason why. I think it's mainly because of our old rivalry we had with them. Their fans still boo Duncan Keith, which it's been almost a decade since he kind of elbowed one of the Sedins, but they had a lot of players on that team I hated, like Burroughs or Kessler, and I did not care for their team at that time, and they could have earlier, when like Detroit was in the West, they probably would have been at number 29. So at number 28, it's the Vancouver Canucks. Okay, at number 27, we go to the Eastern Conference. They should be in the Western Conference. It's the Detroit Red Wings. The rivalry, the history, between the Chicago Blackhawks and Detroit Red Wings. They're basically what makes this have them at number 27. If they were still in the Western Conference, they would be at dead last. I'm not a fan of Detroit sports. Chicago sports versus Detroit sports, it's a rivalry, yeah. Except for Cubs versus Tigers, because different leagues always have been. But Bears versus Lions, that's a rivalry. Blackhawks versus Red Wings, historic rivalry. It's a original six rivalry. Detroit should be in the Western Conference, so we could chant Detroit sucks more often in the United Center. But we can't. We only could do it once a year. Thank you, NHL, for moving them to the East, which sucks. I think they should be in the Western Conference still, and so in number 27 off, let's give it with a good Detroit sucks. Detroit sucks. Okay, at number 26, it's the Blackhawks punching bag in the playoffs, the Minnesota Wild. The reason why I said the punching bag of the playoffs is because from 2013 to 2015, the Hawks met them 3 years in a row, and the Hawks won every series against Minnesota. They just are a team I never really care about. I know they're in the Central Division, so I'm supposed to not like them at all anyways. But Minnesota is a team I just never really cared for. Their uniforms, I mean, they have some players I like Nicholas Backstrom when the goalie Nicholas Backstrom was there, and I like Koivu, but I never really cared for Minnesota. So, number 26 for the Wild. Okay, at number 25, we have the Boston Bruins. The reason behind it is because I never cared about Boston sports. I just don't like Boston sports. And for the Bruins, the real reason I'm not a big fan of them is their broadcaster, Jack Edwards. I don't like him as a broadcaster. I just never cared about the Bruins. But whenever the Hawks play them, it's a fun matchup to watch, like the original six matchup in the Winter Classic. That was a beautiful game to be at because of the jersey matchup. And then the 2013 Stanley Cup Final. That was a great Stanley Cup Final. But I just never cared about the Bruins. So at number 25, I have the Bruins here. Okay, at number 24, it's the Pittsburgh Penguins. You may be wondering why. I just never cared for the Penguins at all. I'm not a fan of Sidney Crosby. I hate Malkin. And I just never cared for the Penguins. But when they played like Nashville in the Cup Final, I wanted the Penguins to beat the Predators in the Cup Final just because I don't like Nashville. So I have Pittsburgh sitting at number 24. I just don't care for them. I don't really care for watching their games. It just is a team that I just don't really care about watching. So at number 24, the Pittsburgh Penguins. Okay, at number 23, it's the Blackhawks opponent in the 2015 conference finals, the Anaheim Ducks. Frankly, I've never liked the Ducks. When they had Corey Perry, especially, I hated the Ducks. When they had Ryan Kessler, I really hated the Ducks. They had players I've never really liked. Their uniforms are boring, in my opinion. So at number 23, having the Ducks here, I understand it just because I never cared about them. Don't care for their uniforms. Especially that orange hideous thing they wear as a third. Ugh. So I have the Ducks at number 23. At number 22, we go back to the Central Division. It's the Winnipeg Jets. Reason behind it, I preferred the Atlanta Thrashers more than the Jets, to be honest. And they don't believe in their history of the Atlanta Thrashers, so maybe that's why I don't care for that part of the Jets. I admit they have great fans. They support their team well, and I admit I like them. I liked how their fans are during the playoffs. It's kind of cool with what they do during the playoffs with the entire stadium full of white jerseys. I think that's kind of cool, but I still think the white jerseys mean surrender, and why are you surrendering your stadium? And so I don't get that part, but I like the ideas what they do during the playoffs. I think that's pretty cool. The Jets, I just don't care for. I like some of their players, yes, and I don't care for. You understand what I mean? I don't care for it. I don't really hate them. So at number 22, I have the Jets. At number 21, this team could have been much lower if it was after the 2014 season. So, it's the LA Kings. Yes, I never cared for the Kings, especially when they go to, with the uniforms they wear. It's kind of boring. I wish they kind of brought back their purple in their color scheme, but that's not about it. I'm just, if it was pre-2012, I would have had them much higher because they sucked before 2012. And then after 2012, I started not liking them. And then by the time after they eliminate us in Game 7 of the Western Conference Final, which honestly, that was the Stanley Cup Final that year, because the Blackhawks or Kings would have beat the Rangers no matter what. The Kings I just don't care for anymore. I just don't like Drew Doughty. Dustin Brown, don't care for him as a player. And I just think they are kind of boring to watch. That's about it now. And the rivalry was only 2 years for the Hawks and Kings, and not much of a rivalry between us. So, at 21, the LA Kings. Okay, we go back to the Central Division at number 20. And it's the Colorado Avalanche. I just have them this high, I honestly think it's because I don't think of them as a rival. Because whenever the Hawks play the Avalanche, it just doesn't seem like a rivalry matchup. And it doesn't seem like it is a rivalry because honestly, I don't think they should be in the Central Division in my opinion. They could be more of a Pacific team because of the time zone they're in. But I just don't consider them a rival. And I like some of the players they have going for them. But I don't care for watching them. So at number 20, I have the Avalanche. Okay, now to number 19. We stay in the Central Division, and it's the Dallas Stars. I would have thought they would have been a lot lower on here, but they aren't just because, again, I don't think of them much as a rival, even though they're in the Central Division. Should be a rival, but they really aren't towards the Hawks. We don't have playoff experience with them, really. I don't think the Stars and Blackhawks have ever met up in the playoffs since the North Stars moved to Dallas and became the Stars. When they became the Dallas Stars, I don't believe the Hawks have any playoff history as the Dallas Stars versus the Chicago Blackhawks. Could correct me if I'm wrong there, but I don't believe the Dallas Stars have met the Hawks in the playoffs. And then, I was wanting them to play, I was supporting them when, I was happy for, I wanted to see them do something with Patrick Sharp when the Hawks got eliminated in the playoffs in 2016. I wanted to see Patrick Sharp play well, but then he came back to Chicago, so I was happy about that. And then they are a team that sometimes I forget they're even in our division just because I feel like they aren't a rival, even though we play them quite a bit. So, at number 19, the Dallas Stars. Okay, at number 18, it's another Original Six team, the Toronto Maple Leafs. I just don't care about the Leafs, but I'm okay with watching their games. They're fun to watch, I admit that. But I have them at 18 just because sometimes it does seem like the media does get down to the States too with the Maple Leafs all the time. So that gets annoying a little bit. But I just don't care about the Leafs enough to have them higher. Or have them lower on their list. So at 18, I have the Toronto Maple Leafs. I like their uniforms. I like a lot of their players they have going for them. And at number 18, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Okay, at number 17, it's the Edmonton Oilers. They could get lower if the NHL does what they say they are going to do with the 2014 playoff, because the Hawks may play Edmonton in the playoff this year if they do a 2014 playoff format. They are a team that, what is there really to hate about them? Because they've sucked for so long, to be honest. And, the only thing I really don't care for is their uniform set, because I'm not a fan of that bright orange they wear. Ugh, it's disgusting. I wish they'd go back to their Gretzky era uniforms they did wear before they switched to Adidas. But I just don't. There's something about that team I just never liked, never disliked. So I have them at number 17. At number 16, I have the Philadelphia Flyers. One thing I don't like about them, we can't win in their stadium, except for one bit of the more important ones. Game 6 of this 2010 Stanley Cup Final, we got the cup there, it's pretty good. But, yeah, Philly, I've never been a fan of, never really disliked. There's been players I dislike, there's been players I really do like to watch. But at number 16, I have the Philadelphia Flyers. At number 15, it's the Tampa Bay Lightning. We won the cup in 2015 against Tampa. This team scared me that year because, honestly, I thought we could have lost the cup that year against Tampa Bay. I thought they were actually the better team, but they weren't. We ended up getting the cup. But they've had players I really like. They have players I don't care for. Again, it's like Philadelphia. Don't care for some players like some of their players. Number 15, I have Tampa Bay, and frankly, they need to do a rebrand, I think. Do they want that branding of the chokers from last year against Columbus? Probably not. So I think they need to go back to like their 2004 Stanley Cup champion era looking uniforms instead of what they go with the Toronto Maple Leafs last Detroit Red Wing template. At number 14, I have the Ottawa Senators. Again, it's another team basically like Tampa and Philly. Players I like, players I don't like. And then they also are a team that kind of is a little bit of a punching bag to the Hawks whenever the Hawks play them. The Hawks play against the Senators pretty well apparently ever since they came into the league. I've looked at stats from games from like the beginning of this Senators franchise history to playing the Chicago Blackhawks. They are not that good. But again, Eastern Conference teams getting higher up in this ranking is understandable because the Hawks don't play them that much. So Ottawa at number 14. At number 13, it is the Washington Capitals. Again, like the previous three teams, players I like, players I don't like, and it's alright. But I did like when they won the Stanley Cup back in 2018. It was pretty cool to see that. And then I kind of want to see Ovechkin beat Gretzky's goal record, even though I'm not a big Ovechkin fan. I like Nicholas Backstrom more than Ovechkin. But it will be cool to see Gretzky record get broken. So I'm kind of hoping for Ovechkin to do it because I honestly think he is the greatest goal scorer in NHL history. Okay, at number 12, we go back to the original six. It's the Montreal Canadiens. Like their history, they have a lot of players I like. Again, there's a few players I dislike from their history. But Montreal being at number 12 is okay where I have them, I feel like. They're a Eastern Conference team, so we don't play them much. And then, they used to trade a lot with the Hawks, and one thing I have to say, thank you for Alex DeBrincat. When we traded Andrew Shaw to them, they gave us basically the draft pick that led to DeBrincat. And then they gave us back Andrew Shaw, so thank you about that. So, at number 12, Montreal. Okay, at number 11, it's the first Canadian team I actually got to see play. Actually saw them play this year. It's the Calgary Flames. They would be higher up on here if they went full-time retro. I am not a fan of the current looks for the Flames. The black being with the Calgary Flames doesn't make sense. And then they also have a Canadian flag on one shoulder, their province flag of Alberta on the other. I don't understand that. But they've always had players I've respected, like Jerome Iginla. I've always respected Iginla. And then their current roster, I like. So I like what they have going for them. Hell, last year I had them winning the Stanley Cup. Did not happen that way. They got eliminated in the first round. Every first seed got eliminated in the first round, it seemed like. So having the Flames at number 11, I'm okay with it. I like the Flames. I like their players. So number 11 for the Calgary Flames. Okay, at number 10, it's the New Jersey Devils. Why? It's because they have players I do like. I'm not a big fan of Subban, but I wanted them to do a lot better than what they did this year. And then they really disappointed at that, but they had players I like, they have players I dislike, but I have always liked their uniforms, but I prefer their older uniforms over their current ones. They switched to Adidas with. Bring back more waist striping, it would look a little bit nicer. And then maybe they would have a better looking uniform. Maybe the team will be better. Who knows? So at number 10, the New Jersey Devils. Okay, at number 9 is the Arizona Coyotes. Well, once they move into the Central Division, I'm just saying that, they probably will be a lot lower. The thing is, with the Coyotes being at number 9, is because of all the ex-Blackhawks on that team. Thank you, Stan Bowman, because you basically created a good up-and-coming team in Arizona by just trading to them. The Arizona Coyotes have a lot of ex-Blackhawks on the team, so I still support those players like Vinny Hinostroza, Nick Schmaltz, Antti Ranta. He's ended up going to the Rangers, but then now he's on the Coyotes. But there's still players there I like. Once they come into the division in about a year or so, yeah, they probably won't be I won't like them as much because they're in the Central Division, which does not make sense. They should be staying in the Pacific unless the NHL does plan on a relocation to maybe like Houston or something like that, because would be a Central-based area. But them coming to the Central Division when they're a Pacific team or so doesn't make sense. So at number 9, the Arizona Coyotes. At number 8 is the New York Rangers. They've always had players I like. Their uniforms I do really enjoy. They're probably my second favorite uniform in the NHL besides the Blackhawks. I like the word mark going down like that. It's classic, and I like how they look. They have Panarin now, and again, they are a good team coming up in the NHL. They are young, they are talented, and they have some great goaltending in their history, and I like goaltending. So at number 8, I have the New York Rangers. Okay, at number 7, it's the Buffalo Sabres. I have them at 7 because they're a team that just gets forgotten about, it feels like, and they are a team that really hasn't been good for a long time. Their uniform currently does suck with the navy blue, silver, and yellow they use. That's why I put their old logo on here, like their old color scheme on here with the royal blue and yellow, because next year they'll be switching to it, which brings them up. Retro color for the Sabres should be their full-time thing going forward, and honestly, I think that's cool. So, at number 7, the Buffalo Sabres. At number 6 is the San Jose Sharks. They've normally are a little bit higher until this year, because they kind of made me mad when they extended Erik Karlsson to that horrible contract and decided to not keep Joe Pavelski. I like Pavelski. He's one of my favorite players in the NHL currently. And then he was their captain. He was great for that team. Seeing him in a Stars uniform just doesn't make sense. He should be a Shark. He's a San Jose Shark. But I have the Sharks at number 6 now because they basically disappointed me with a few teams, with a few decisions, and keeping one player, letting another player go, and so they're at number 6. Okay, at number 5, I have the New York Islanders because they feel like they're that forgotten team that just gets disrespected a lot when they're actually not a bad team at all. I like their defensive scheme they play. I know it's a Barry Trotz boring defensive game, but I like a lot of their players like Matt Barzal, and I like Andres Lee. So I like their players they have currently. They have a good history. I know they also have a bad history when it comes to after their great history in the 80s, and then they go to the 90s where the Fish Sticks have a horrible owner, and then they had Garth Snow. So I have them at number 5 because they just seem like that team that gets loved to be forgotten about. At number 4, I have the Carolina Hurricanes because the Hawks trade with them a lot, so they have a lot of ex-Blackhawks like Teravainen on there especially. So wish we would have kept Teravainen, and they are just a good team. I like Brenda Moore as a coach for them, and I just like how they are as a team. Hate their away uniform. That is an ugly uniform. I know I said I like wordmark logos going down, but when they put the nickname of the team like the Canes, that just makes it stupid. If you do a word, do the full word, like Hurricanes, not Canes. At number 3, I have the Columbus Blue Jackets. Why? Well, again, they've traded with the Hawks quite a bit in their history. When they were in the Central Division originally, I liked them. I liked Rick Nash when he played there. They've had players I've always liked there, like Rick Nash, Panarin, a player that the Hawks let go for. Oh my God. Well, Brandon Saad went there and came back to the Hawks, so there we go. So at number 3, I have the Jackets because frankly, they've had a good history of having players I actually like. But make that logo, the Cannon logo, the full-time logo. Columbus, do it. At number 2, it is the Florida Panthers. Why? Well, I've always liked the Panthers. I know they're a team that doesn't get any respect. People want them to relocate to like Quebec, which I don't want them to relocate because they're my second favorite team. And they aren't that close to the Hawks though, but they've always been a team I've always liked. I wish they kept their old logo over their current one because the old one's cooler. The current one's kind of corporate looking. The older one, I like the branding of it more. But they've always had players I enjoyed watching. Luongo, of course. When he was a Canuck, of course, I did not care for him there. But when he was a Panther, I've liked him. They've had Yarger. They've had quite a bit of players there in their history that I've always liked. So, at number 2, the Florida Panthers. And finally, at number 1, everyone knows it, the Chicago Blackhawks. The channel's for the Chicago Blackhawks, so you knew it was going to be number 1. And also I've said it quite a bit in this video. Well, of course, they're my favorite team. No one touches the Hawks at number 1. No one's even close. The Florida Panthers are my second favorite team, but they aren't close to the Hawks. Again, Hawks up here, Panthers way down here in comparison. Basically. You know it's hard to pass up your favorite team when it comes to the history, the winning, the downside of losing, rebuilding, getting great players like Kane, Taves, Keefe, Zebra, Kosa, Crawford, Saad, everyone that's, anyone you can name that's played for this team that helped win the cup multiple times, and the history behind them. No one touches the Hawks. Honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing this jersey come back as a full-time third. I would love it. We haven't had it since 2009. The old black thirds are still one of my favorite jersey. So maybe Blackhawks bring back this beauty of a jersey for a full-time third. Make our Winter Classic a heritage. Wear that one 4 times a year. Make this one a full-time third. And we have a good... It will be great. So, that's my ranking of this video. So, from 31 to number 1, Blackhawks always at number 1. So thank you for watching the broadcast. Please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And most of all, let's go Hawks!